The day I discovered my wife's calculated deception changed everything I thought I knew about trust and justice. My name is David Parker, and I'm 35 years old. I live alone now in the house we once shared, documenting every detail that led to this moment. Natalie Parker, my wife of 7 years, orchestrated more than just an affair. She engineered a complete betrayal of our marriage and finances. The morning coffee mugs still sit in their usual spots, a painful reminder of normalcy's thin veneer. Owen Blake, my trusted friend and CPA, warned me early on that her suggestion of an open marriage was just the beginning. I didn't respond with anger. Instead, I chose the path of methodical evidence gathering. Some might call it cold. I call it necessary. But let me start from the beginning. "We need to talk about opening up our marriage," Natalie said, stirring her morning coffee with practiced calm. She'd chosen her moment well, early Saturday when we usually shared breakfast and planned our weekend. The sunlight streaming through our kitchen windows felt suddenly cold. Opening up? I kept my voice neutral, though my stomach clenched. The toast on my plate might as well have been cardboard. It's about growth, David. Being mature enough to acknowledge that monogamy isn't the only path. Her voice had that rehearsed quality I recognized from her corporate presentations. Many couples are embracing ethical non-monogamy these days. It's about honesty. I watched her hands as she spoke, steady, confident, too confident. The word honesty rang hollow, like a false note in a familiar song. Remember how your grandmother used to say that truth sits differently than lies? This felt like that. "That's quite a shift from our wedding vows," I said carefully, memorizing her exact words and expressions. "What brought this on?" "I've been doing a lot of reading, talking to people." She waved her hand dismissively. "It's really about being authentic to ourselves. You know that moment when you realize you're watching a performance rather than having a conversation? That's where I was. Every gesture seemed calculated, every word chosen for maximum effect. I nodded thoughtfully, playing my role of the understanding husband while my mind raced ahead. Later that night, after Natalie went to bed, I sat in our home office with her phone records pulled up on my laptop. Those late meetings she'd been having, they formed a pattern. Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, sometimes extending into the weekend with claims of client emergencies. The contact list caught my attention first. Most names were normal, but one entry stood out, just a calendar emoji. Who labels a contact with just an emoji? My fingers moved methodically across the keyboard, tracking the patterns. The calendar emoji's calls aligned perfectly with her late nights. I remembered the time she'd insisted on separate phones for work-life balance. The explanation felt different now, weighted with new meaning. The rideshare receipts were next. I'd always appreciated how careful she was about not driving after business dinners, but now each receipt told a different story. The destinations weren't restaurants or office buildings. They led to the Westbrook Hotel, that boutique place downtown where rooms start at $400 a night. My chest tightened as I tracked the pattern. Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, the same hotel, the same general time frame. I screenshotted everything, my hands steady despite the tremor I felt inside. Each image went into a secured folder I'd created earlier that evening. The timestamps painted an undeniable picture. While I'd been heating up dinner or working late myself, thinking she was building her career, she'd been... I forced myself to finish the thought. Meeting someone else. The last receipt I found was from just 2 days ago. Same hotel, same pattern, but this one included a second passenger pickup 30 minutes after her departure time, a man's name. Remember when I said betrayal doesn't announce itself with fireworks? Sometimes it whispers through digital receipts and hidden emoji contacts, painting a picture you never wanted to see. The next morning, Sunday, I watched Natalie prepare her usual weekend breakfast, avocado toast with that fancy olive oil she loved. Remember those quiet weekend mornings when trust felt as natural as breathing? This one felt like breathing through a mask. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," I began, keeping my voice gentle, "about opening up the marriage." She glanced up, her knife pausing mid-slice through the avocado. "Yes? Maybe we should try counseling first. Set some boundaries, work through any underlying issues." I stirred my coffee, watching her reaction carefully. "Make sure we're both protected emotionally." A smile spread across her face, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. "That's so enlightened of you, David. Really." She reached for her phone, checked something quickly, then placed it face down on the counter. "I appreciate you being so understanding. The gesture struck me like a hammer blow. In 12 years of marriage, she'd always kept her phone face up. Always. My throat tightened, but I maintained my calm exterior. "We could start looking for therapists this week," I suggested. "I found some highly rated ones who specialize in marriage counseling." "Of course," she said smoothly. "Let me check my schedule tomorrow at work." She took a deliberate bite of her toast, then changed the subject to garden plans for spring. After she left for her Sunday yoga class, I sat down at my desktop computer. Our shared cloud storage held years of documents: tax returns, insurance policies, home improvement receipts. I hadn't checked it in months. Why would I? Trust had made me complacent. The recent files folder showed activity from last Thursday. Clicking through, I found a draft home equity line of credit application. My name was already filled in alongside Natalie's. The loan amount, $275,000, almost all our home equity. The room seemed to tilt sideways. I steadied myself against the desk, reading through the document again. Every detail was there: our income, our assets, even my social security number. Only the signatures remained blank. My hands shook as I dialed Owen Blake's number. We'd been friends since college, and his CPA expertise had guided me through every major financial decision. "Owen, I need your eyes on something. Now." "What's wrong?" His voice sharpened at my tone. I forwarded him the loan document while explaining about Natalie's open marriage proposal and the hotel receipts. "Tell me I'm not connecting dots that aren't there." Silence stretched as he reviewed the file. Then, "Jesus, David, listen to me carefully. You need to lock everything down. Today. Right now." His voice carried the same urgency as when he'd warned me about that toxic investment years ago. "Freeze your credit, secure all accounts, change every password. If she's planning what I think she is, what do you think she's planning? Based on what I'm seeing, she's setting up to strip the house out from under you. These numbers, the timing. David, this isn't random. This is calculated." I pulled up the loan draft again, my screen blurring slightly as I scrolled through terms I'd nearly missed. Sole responsibility clause, individual withdrawal rights, immediate access to funds upon approval. That evening, after Natalie texted she'd be working late again, I settled into my home office with a cup of black coffee. The same desk where I'd signed our mortgage 6 years ago now felt like command central for uncovering her deception. Funny how familiar spaces change their meaning when trust shatters. I opened my leather binder, the one Natalie had given me last Christmas, claiming it was perfect for keeping important documents organized. Now I wondered if she'd been mocking me even then. Inside, I'd arranged everything chronologically: screenshots of her hidden contact, rideshare receipts to the Gateway Hotel downtown, and Owen's preliminary analysis of the loan draft. The hotel visits formed a pattern: Tuesday evenings, always between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m., like clockwork. I remembered all those nights she'd call to say she was stuck at the office. The memory of her voice, so casual in its lies, made my jaw clench. "Focus," I muttered, reaching for our most recent bank statements. There had to be more. Someone calculating enough to forge loan documents wouldn't stop there. I methodically worked backward through 3 months of transactions, noting anything unusual in my legal pad. The coffee went cold beside me as I dug deeper into our joint accounts. That's when I saw it, a reference number I didn't recognize, buried in last week's statement. 10 digits starting with ESC, followed by today's date. My stomach dropped. An escrow number. I pulled up our bank's online portal, entered the reference number, and there it was. An active escrow account I'd never authorized. The document looked official, complete with both our names and... I leaned closer to the screen, my pulse quickening. There, in black and white. Notary appointment scheduled. Friday, 2:30 p.m. 5 days. She'd scheduled a notary for 5 days from now. The room felt suddenly airless. I grabbed my phone and snapped photos of everything on my screen, then downloaded the full escrow documentation. The pieces were fitting together with horrible clarity. While meeting her lover at the Gateway, Natalie was simultaneously orchestrating financial fraud that could strip away everything I'd worked for. Remember those old movies where the hero finds a ticking bomb? This was worse. Every page in my binder represented another wire in the explosive she'd planted in our lives. But unlike those movie heroes, I couldn't just cut the red wire and save the day. This required precision, documentation, timing. I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and drew a timeline. The hotel visits, the loan draft, And now, this escrow account, all pointing toward Friday like arrows on a map. My hand was steady as I uncapped a red marker and circled the notary date. The ink bled slightly into the paper, like a warning sign. 5 days to counter whatever she had planned. 5 days before she could potentially forge my signature on documents I'd never seen. The weight of each hour seemed to press down on my shoulders as I carefully closed the binder. Through my office window, I could see lights flicking on in neighboring houses as evening settled in. Normal people living normal lives, while mine had become a countdown to Friday. I checked my watch, 9:47 p.m. Natalie would be home soon, probably carrying the scent of hotel soap beneath her perfume. I circled the notary date one more time, pressing hard enough that the marker squeaked against the paper. I spent an hour arranging everything just so on our mahogany dining table, the one where we'd shared countless meals and planned our future together. Now it would serve a different purpose. Each stack of evidence sat precisely where I needed it, like chess pieces before the final match. The front door clicked open at 7:15 p.m. I heard Natalie's heels on the hardwood, followed by her practiced laugh as she called out, "Honey, I picked up that Merlot you love." The same wine we'd had at our wedding. My throat tightened at her calculated choice. I remained seated, hands folded on the table as she rounded the corner. "What's all this?" Her smile flickered when she saw the papers but recovered quickly. She set the wine bottle down with deliberate grace. "Sit, please." I kept my voice level, the way I would during any serious discussion. "We need to talk about some decisions you've been making." She slipped into her usual chair, crossing her legs smoothly. "If this is about the open marriage suggestion, I thought you were okay with exploring new directions." Her tone carried that familiar note of reasonable disappointment, the one that had made me question my own judgment so many times before. "Let's start here." I slid the first stack toward her, rideshare receipts, all ending at the Gateway Hotel. "Tuesday nights aren't actually late meetings, are they?" Her laugh came quick and dismissive. "Oh, David, are you tracking my movements now? That's rather controlling, don't you think?" I remembered the smell of fresh coffee in our kitchen years ago, when I still believed in us. The memory steadied me. Next stack. I pushed forward the screenshots of her hidden contact. The calendar emoji was clever, almost missed it. "You're going through my phone? This is exactly why I suggested opening things up. You're clearly dealing with trust issues." She reached for the wine bottle, but I gently moved it aside. Final stack. My hand trembled slightly as I presented the loan draft and escrow documents. "This moves beyond marriage into fraud territory, Natalie." For just a moment, her mask slipped. I caught a flash of something cold in her eyes before she recovered. "That? It was a test, darling. I wanted to see how closely you monitored our finances. Honestly, I'm impressed." "A test?" The word came out harder than I intended. I took a breath, centering myself. "Like the tests you ran on previous partners?" That got her attention. Her head tilted, calculating new angles. "No open marriage, no secret loans. Transparency now or separation." I laid each option out clearly, the way I would present terms in any negotiation. "Those are the only paths forward." She actually laughed then, the sound echoing off our dining room walls. "David, sweetie, you're letting insecurity cloud your judgment. Maybe we should sleep on this. Discuss it when you're thinking more clearly?" My hands clenched under the table, but I kept my face neutral as I reached for the final document. The escrow sheet with Friday's notary appointment slid across the polished wood between us. Natalie's smirk faltered when she saw the date. Her eyes flickered, just for an instant, but I caught it. "Why is this scheduled without me?" The morning sun felt harsh as I pulled into the bank's parking lot, manila folder heavy in my hand. I'd barely slept, the escrow paperwork burning a hole in my briefcase all night. You know that hollow feeling when you're about to confirm your worst fears? That's what churned in my gut as I walked through the glass doors. The branch manager recognized me immediately. "Mr. Parker, good morning. Ms. Lee is expecting you." I remembered sitting in this same lobby 5 years ago, Natalie beside me, applying for our first joint account. The leather chairs still had that same polished shine, but everything else felt different now. Ms. Lee's office was exactly what you'd expect from a fraud investigator, meticulously organized with a large magnifying glass prominently displayed on her desk. She stood to greet me, her dark suit as precise as her handshake. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Parker." She gestured to the chair across from her desk. "You mentioned concerns about unauthorized documents?" I pulled out the escrow paperwork, laying it flat between us. My signature appears on these, but I never signed them. She slipped on a pair of reading glasses, lifting the magnifying glass with practiced efficiency. Her eyes narrowed as she compared the signature to my driver's license and bank cards. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. "May I ask when you first discovered these documents?" Her tone was carefully neutral. "Last night." My voice caught slightly. I cleared my throat. "During a conversation with my wife." Ms. Lee nodded, making a note in her folder. The scratch of her pen seemed unnaturally loud in the quiet office. I could smell coffee from somewhere down the hall, mixed with the subtle scent of paper and ink that all banks seem to share. "Mr. Parker," she set down her pen deliberately, "this signature is definitely forged. The pressure points and letter formation don't match your authorized signatures. I'm freezing all pending transactions immediately." My shoulders sagged with relief, even as my stomach clenched tighter. "What happens next?" "We'll file an internal fraud report." She began typing rapidly on her keyboard. "You have the right to pursue legal action, which I strongly recommend given the circumstances. I'd like you to return Friday, the day of this notary appointment, so we can address any additional attempts." The word attempts hit me like a punch. How many other documents had Natalie forged? How deep did this deception go? "The freeze takes effect now?" I needed to be certain. "Yes." Ms. Lee's eyes met mine with steady assurance. "No withdrawals, no transfers, no loans can proceed without additional verification. We take identity theft very seriously, Mr. Parker, even when it's perpetrated by a spouse." Identity theft. The clinical term made it feel simultaneously more real and more surreal. I gathered the documents with slightly shaking hands, tucking them back into their folder. "Thank you," I managed, standing to leave. "Friday at 9 a.m., Ms. Lee confirmed, walking me to her office door. "And Mr. Parker? Document everything from now on." The walk through the lobby felt longer this time. Each step echoed against the marble floor as I pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot. Reaching my car, I gripped the door handle, the metal warm from the morning sun. What would Natalie do when she discovered her access was frozen? Friday morning hit me like a bucket of cold water. The sun hadn't even cleared the horizon when I pulled into the bank's parking lot, 20 minutes early for my appointment with Ms. Lee. Ever notice how time moves differently when you're dreading something? Those 20 minutes stretched like taffy. I checked my watch, 8:57 a.m. The leather folder in my hands contained every scrap of evidence I'd gathered. Bank statements, forged documents, transaction histories. The weight felt right somehow, like carrying the truth itself. Remember those old westerns where two gunslingers meet at high noon? That's what the bank lobby felt like as I waited. The same leather chairs, potted plants, and morning light streaming through tall windows, but everything held its breath. Ms. Lee appeared precisely at 9, beckoning me to her office. "Good morning, Mr. Parker. Let's review what you've brought." I was spreading documents across her desk when a commotion at the front caught our attention. A man in an ill-fitting suit burst through the doors, his tie askew and forehead shining with sweat. He clutched a manila envelope like it was his last lifeline. "I have a deed that needs immediate processing," he announced to the teller, too loud for the quiet lobby. "It's pre-signed and ready to go." My spine went rigid. Ms. Lee's eyes narrowed as she stood. "Excuse me, Mr. Parker." She approached the mortgage broker, because that's clearly what he was, with the same careful precision I'd seen her use examining documents. "Sir, I'm Ms. Lee, fraud investigation. May I see those papers?" The broker's confident facade cracked slightly. He glanced at the exit before handing over the envelope, his hands trembling. I watched Ms. Lee compare the signatures, her expression hardening into granite. Without a word, she gestured for him to follow her into a side conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see her speaking, her posture radiating authority. The broker kept wiping his forehead, shaking his head. Then Ms. Lee placed something on the table. Looked like a formal complaint form. The broker's shoulders slumped. He started talking. 10 minutes later, Ms. Lee opened the door. "Mr. Parker, would you join us?" The conference room smelled of nervous sweat and cheap cologne. The broker wouldn't meet my eyes as I sat down. "Mr. Davidson here has something to share," Ms. Lee said, her tone professionally neutral, but with an edge of steel. "About your wife." The broker, Davidson, cleared his throat. I've done similar paperwork with Mrs. Parker before," his voice cracked. "About 18 months ago. Different property, different man." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I processed his words. Different man? He lost his condo, Davidson continued, words tumbling out now. Same setup, forged signatures, quick transfer, clean getaway. I didn't know she'd try it again so soon. My hands gripped the armrests until my knuckles went white. The affair, the forgery, they weren't just betrayals. They were practice, patterns. How many others had there been? How many lives had Natalie systematically dismantled before targeting mine? The room tilted slightly as Davidson's confession continued. Each detail hit like another brick in a wall of calculated destruction. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. This was about a predator who had refined her technique through multiple victims. I sat there, gripping the chair to stay upright, as the true scope of Natalie's deception expanded like ripples in a poisoned pond. The evening light slanted through my living room windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. It was 7:15 p.m., exactly 45 minutes since Owen had arrived with my attorney, Sarah Chen. The digital recorder sat on the coffee table between us, its red light steady. "Are you sure about this timing?" Owen asked, adjusting his collar. He'd come straight from his office, still wearing his CPA uniform of pressed shirt and neat tie. I nodded, checking my watch again. Natalie always goes to the gym on Thursdays. She'll be home in 15 minutes. Remember those moments before a thunderstorm, when the air gets thick and everything goes quiet? That's what my living room felt like. Sarah arranged her documents with practiced efficiency while Owen paced near the window. I sat perfectly still, letting the calm settle into my bones. The familiar sound of Natalie's car pulling into the driveway cut through the silence. Owen took his position on the armchair, Sarah beside him on the couch. I remained standing, facing the entrance. Keys jingled. The door opened. "David?" Natalie called out, her gym bag slung over her shoulder. She froze when she saw our audience. "What's this?" "Please sit down," I said, gesturing to the empty chair across from Owen. "We need to talk." Her eyes darted between faces, calculating. "I don't appreciate being ambushed in my own home." "Our home," I corrected quietly. "The one you tried to steal through fraud." Natalie's laugh came sharp and dismissive. "Not this again. I told you that loan was just a test." "Yes." I reached for the first folder. "But what about these?" One by one, I laid out the evidence we'd gathered. Hotel receipts, screenshots of her hidden contact, the forged loan documents. Each piece landed on the coffee table with the weight of truth. "And this morning," I continued, "your mortgage broker, Mr. Davidson, made quite an interesting confession." Her perfect composure cracked, just slightly. A tightening around the eyes, a slight forward lean. "What confession?" "About the condo scheme 18 months ago. Different man, same fraud pattern." I kept my voice level. "How many others were there, Natalie?" "This is ridiculous." She stood up, hands clenched. "You're twisting everything, taking normal business dealings and making them seem sinister because you're paranoid." The recorder captured every word as she grew louder, more accusatory. I didn't interrupt. Neither did Owen or Sarah. We just watched as Natalie's careful mask began to slip. "You want to know what's really happening?" Her voice rose sharply. "You're sabotaging our marriage. You're the one who can't handle an evolved relationship. You're the one—" A knock at the front door cut through her tirade. Natalie's head snapped toward the sound. The color drained from her face as if she somehow sensed what was coming. I glanced at Sarah, who gave a slight nod. The knock came again, more insistent this time. "Would you like to get that?" I asked Natalie quietly. "Or should I?" I opened the door to find a professionally dressed woman holding a leather document folder. "Natalie Parker?" she asked, stepping inside at my gesture. "Who are you?" Natalie's voice had lost its edge, replaced by something closer to fear. "Jessica Manuel, certified process server." She approached Natalie with practiced efficiency. "I'm here to serve you with legal documents. Please accept these papers." The first envelope landed in Natalie's hands, the emergency injunction freezing all our accounts. The second followed immediately, separation papers citing financial fraud and infidelity. The third hit hardest, Ms. Lee's detailed fraud complaint, complete with the broker's signed statement. "You need to sign here acknowledging receipt," Jessica said, holding out a clipboard. Natalie's hands shook as she scrawled her signature. The perfectly curated image she'd maintained was crumbling. Her gym clothes, usually a symbol of control, now made her look smaller, more vulnerable. "This is completely unnecessary," she whispered, but the usual manipulation had drained from her voice. Her eyes darted between the papers, reality sinking in with each page she turned. Sarah cleared her throat. Mrs. Parker, I'll outline the immediate effects of these documents. The injunction prevents any further attempts to access joint accounts or modify property records. The separation agreement requires you to vacate the premises within 48 hours. The fraud complaint, she paused, letting the weight of it settle. That's now in the hands of the bank's legal department. David, Natalie tried, her tone shifting to something softer, pleading. We can talk about this. All couples have rough patches. No. The word came out quiet but firm. I began gathering the evidence folders from the coffee table, sliding each one into my briefcase with deliberate care. The hotel receipts, the loan drafts, the broker's confession. Each piece represented a choice she'd made, a betrayal she'd planned. You don't understand, she continued, desperation creeping in. Everything I did was for us, for our future. Like the other man's condo? Owen's voice cut through her excuses. Was that for your future too? Natalie flinched. The papers trembled in her grip. I closed my briefcase with a soft click. The sound felt final, like the period at the end of a long sentence. Standing up, I straightened my jacket, the same one I'd worn the day we signed our marriage license. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah will handle any further communication, I said, my voice steady. Owen? My friend rose, positioning himself between Natalie and me as we moved toward the door. A small gesture of protection, but I appreciated it all the same. David, please. Natalie's last attempt fell flat as we stepped into the hallway. I paused at the threshold, not turning back. The truth always surfaces, Natalie. It just needs someone willing to dig for it. The door closed behind us with a quiet click. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Natalie sinking into the chair, papers scattered around her feet, the carefully constructed facade of her schemes finally collapsing under their own weight. 3 weeks passed like a slow exhale. I sat in courtroom B, my evidence binders neat and organized on the table before me. The morning light filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows across the wood paneling. Sarah, my attorney, had just finished her closing argument, clear, precise, devastating in its simplicity. Natalie sat at the opposite table, wearing the navy suit she'd always saved for important client meetings. Strange how familiar things could become foreign so quickly. I remembered helping her pick out that suit, back when I thought we shared the same values about trust and honesty. Judge Martinez shuffled her papers, her reading glasses catching the light. The courtroom fell silent, that peculiar hush that comes before moments of consequence. Having reviewed all evidence presented, she began, her voice carrying authority earned through decades on the bench. This court finds clear and convincing proof of fraudulent activity regarding the home equity line of credit application. The HELOC is hereby voided. My shoulders relaxed slightly. Sarah squeezed my arm. Furthermore, Judge Martinez continued, given the documented pattern of financial misconduct and the defendant's attempt to illegally encumber the marital home, the court awards full ownership of the property to David Parker, with all equity intact. The judge's gavel fell with a sharp crack that echoed through the chamber. Just like that, justice, methodical, documented justice, became reality. I'd ended this chapter on my terms, not Natalie's. The truth had done exactly what truth does when given proper support. It had prevailed. Later that afternoon, I knelt in my front yard, a young olive tree sapling beside me. The spring soil felt cool against my hands as I dug the hole, measuring the depth carefully. Owen had helped me choose the tree, a symbol of peace that would grow strong roots, the kind that couldn't be forged or stolen. You know that feeling when you're doing something simple but significant? That's how it felt, placing that tree in the ground. Each shovelful of dirt I packed around its base was like setting another boundary, claiming another piece of my life back. The sun was starting its descent when I finished, casting long shadows across my newly secured home. I stood back, brushing dirt from my knees, and studied the young tree's branches reaching toward the sky. They seemed fragile now, but I knew better. Given time and care, those branches would grow strong, spreading wide to offer shade and shelter. My phone buzzed, a message from Owen asking how I was doing. I smiled, thinking about how friendship, like justice, reveals itself in actions more than words. Just planted an olive tree, I texted back. Come see it sometime. Looking up at the deepening dusk, I felt something settle inside me. Not happiness exactly, but peace. The earned kind that comes after standing your ground, after protecting what's right. the kind that grows from having proof and backbone. And that's the real truth I learned through all of this. Peace isn't just some gentle state that falls into your lap. Sometimes it has to be defended with evidence folders and court dates. Sometimes it has to be planted in the ground and tended with care. I touched one of the olive tree's leaves, still damp from watering. Peace needs proof and backbone, I said quietly to the gathering evening, and time to grow proper roots.